Hey guys, welcome to another vlog. I'm Kevin, and today's vlog is I guess it'll be called Hot and Ugly, or Hot and Ugly, whichever. The things my eyes can't stop looking at. So, in my teenager years, when I actually started learning to drive, one of the funny things was that, well, in your teen years, if you're a regular dude, you'll actually get your hormones pretty high up, but like mine were pretty low and whatever, and then I never really had too much attraction to girls or whatever until like way later. And then I was also asking myself, I was like, do I like guys? And then I was like, no, I don't like guys. I can barely like my own thing down there. And then so anyways, so I was like driving around with my friend, and then when we first started driving, my friend was like, yo, look at that hot girl over there, right? And it's always like going like driving, and then your eye of direction goes over there, and then the wheel starts following it too, right? And it's like, oh shit. So it was really dangerous every time there was like a hot girl on the sidewalk or whatever that we're driving by, and we see them and we're like, oh fuck. And it's like, ah. And then there was another time I thought it was really odd at the same time that we saw like this old grandma as well, and we were like, holy fuck, man, it's like, look at that grandma on the sidewalks. And I still looked over, and same thing, the wheel was like, oh shit. It was dangerous as hell. And that's something like I realized much later in life, that it was like, you know, it's not all about looks. In your teenage years, it's like, you'll be young and foolish, and you'll be like, oh, I'm gonna go after the hottest girl or whatever. Afterwards, it's like, it'll be like, find out like the personality is actually quite shit or whatever, but then it's actually rarely ever come across a very, very pretty and hot person that is both nice and pretty. It's like, it's very rare for somebody to be that. I don't even know why. I have some preconceptions and notions about why that is, but it doesn't apply because everybody's different. So the one thing I want to tell you guys is, like, you know, looks do matter in terms of, like, you know, I obviously, like, that's the first thing you'll be able to know about a person, is if you're attracted to them. It's just based on looks. Personality is a much more harder thing to obtain, and like, you learn about somebody, it's very, very difficult. It's and they always say, like, you know, go after personality rather than looks, right? But then, like, personality is much harder to understand than looks. Looks is just like, you know, it is what you see. That's what it is. And it's like, and I always perceive myself like, you know, I dress sloppy. I'm pretty unkempt, and I don't really take too much care in looks. And then I don't really expect the same. So that's why, like, I trained myself over the years to just, you know, go after personality, right? But then there still needs to be some kind of looks there that actually interests me to actually go after somebody. And that's the, you know, it's all you need is one, guys. Because I'm sure that's all you're after, is just one person, unless you're a player, and then you just like playing out with other people, which isn't really nice. Or yeah, stuff like that. So, you know, looks do matter. Obviously in real world we want it to not matter, but it does. And this isn't like saying like you have to be over the top or whatever. Just, you know, look normal and whatever, and just look nice if you want to be, look presentable, basically presentable. I don't know what that means to you. It's just like, you know, whatever you're happy with yourself. You have to be happy with yourself. If you're not happy with yourself, you shouldn't be even looking for somebody. So, you know, and then afterwards then you, like, once you're comfortable with yourself, then you look for your partner or whatever, whoever they may be. And obviously that's going to be a very hard and long trek, and you'll probably go through like many other people before you actually find them, kind of thing, because it takes a long time before you know what you like and taste. But, you know, in terms of looks, it does matter. How it works is, like, you know, you always go after looks first, then you want personality to top looks. that's kind of what it should be anyways. It's a bit shitty for, like, you know, I mean, looks is very, very hard to make yourself look better. It's you have to work on it. It's not something like it just, some people are born with generally pretty good looks, but then some people aren't as well. So it's hard to level the playing field that way, just because genetics like to fuck it around. But there is somebody out there for everybody, and you shouldn't give up hope. So if you want to know more about me, it's like, I've only ever had one girlfriend in the past, and it started at the age of like 21, and then it went for 4 years or so, something like that, and then that was it. I've only ever like, you know, been with one person, and then afterwards broke out. We weren't meant for each other or whatever. We both were getting more miserable over time, and then it just didn't work out. So that's what happened. And my message here is like, you know, that person was like, you know, they had the looks, and then afterwards, like the personality that I discovered over time, it was very exhausting on my part. And then like I felt like I wasn't being myself as well. It was in that honeymoon phase. So it's kind of like you in the honeymoon phase, the things that aren't real is that you become more forgiving to your partner. You kind of let things slide. You let like the shortcomings of each other go through each other one another a lot more easily than afterwards. So it's kind of like it's a unrealistic reality check. It's just affirming that you're really like loving this person right now, but then after say a lengthy period of time, you know, obviously that kind of fades, and then that's when you start hitting something real. Is it there or is it not? And then the more you go into dating, that time period should shorten over and over, unless you're always in for just the adrenaline shot of the honeymoon phase, and then like, you know, afterwards it's like, oh, why do I not love this person anymore? And then it's just like gone, and then you don't care about it anymore. So that's one of the problems that I've seen some of my friends that actually go through that loop repeatedly. I'm like, well, whoa, it's like, okay, you've been with this person, now you've been with this person, now you've been with this person, now you've been with this person. And I was just like, have you ever thought to think that, you know, there might be something wrong in the picture here? It's always this amount of length of time almost, and it's always like, you know, it's just because there's this initial attraction, and then there's nothing actually real of substance right after, because both of you were just after looks, and then like you didn't like each other's personality, and then you know, you didn't really create any kind of qualities that you learned from the previous one that you were looking in the next one. So it's like, that's why you want to go through like a lot of people if you don't know what you want. But for me, it's like, I know what I want. That's why I've only had one. And it was very specific, and then like that one didn't really even fit. It fit most of them, but then there were like some things that were just really destructive and just didn't work out. You know what? One thing I've come across a lot this year was that like a lot of pretty people I've come across lately, they come off as really ass, and then the ugly people, like, you know, just aesthetically ugly. They're not an actually ugly person. They're actually very nice. And then the people who are aesthetically pretty, they actually are really ugly people. I'm just like, that's very weird. And then, of course, I've met a few rare ones where there was one I met that was actually an ugly looking person, and they were ugly as a person, and I was like, you're just toxic. And then I've also met one that was really pretty, and then she was also really nice, and that was the girl that I was like really infatuated with, like over the past months in those previous vlogs. And those feelings have subsided and passed, which I'm glad, thank God. That was such an emotional struggle on my part. Oh shit, I would not want to go through that again. And I'm glad like that pretty girl that I was infatuated with didn't really take advantage of me or whatever. I knew like what I was putting myself into, so like, you know, there's no regrets. I should not regret any of it. And it's like all the actions I did was just basically to make someone else happy, and that was it. There shouldn't be any kind of string attached with those actions if you're trying to make someone else happy. And that's generally the definition of being a nice guy. It's like you're not supposed to expect shit back if you're nice. Like you're nice because you want to be nice. It's not because you're expecting something in return. If anything, the only thing I expected in return was a smile on their face, and sometimes I couldn't even see it. I just hoped that they were happy that they got something special for the day. Alright guys, so just the final thing I want you guys to take away from this is that, you know, why you want personality more than looks, even though looks do matter at first. That's just like, think of the looks as like bait. Everybody's out fishing and looks as bait, and then what you want to actually reel in is personality. If you reel in the personality, then you'll probably be happier later or whatever anyways, or over a long period of time, because as you get older, looks will become less and less impactful. And it's like I'm like in my 20s right now or whatever, and I'm just like, man, I fucking hate the people. It's so hard to find somebody that's on the same mindset like this, but then at the same time, because everybody at this age is like, they're all still like, oh, I'm young and pretty, young and youthful, gotta look good, everything, whatever. And then you see like old people, right? They're just like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a fuck about my looks. It's just like, I know what the fuck is out there. I'm done with this bullshit that was in my 20s or whatever and whatnot. And I know like what the fuck is real and what the fuck is a piece of shit. So, and I'm just like, this is why I also actually like older people a lot more, is because like I don't have to trifle with this bullshit of appearances with them very much, and most of the time it's just like have a great laugh and have a great talk. And because, you know, the personality shines much more as you get older than looks, because as you know, age will make us all look ugly over time. And you know, at the end of the road, not even the day, at the end of the road, you're all gonna be wrinkly, and you know, you'll be like sitting on a chair and yelling at each other and having a great time and talking shit and whatever. But yeah, that's why it's like, you know, personality is much higher than anything else, and it's something that doesn't age at all. In fact, it's ageless. Personality has no age. It's just like, you know, your mentality of being either a child or being an adult is completely up to you throughout your entire lifespan. You can be whatever you want. I've seen grown-ups who act like children, and then when shit hits a storm, they are like a militant soldier all of a sudden. It is like mind-blowing. And that's how I understood like why this person was with this person, because this guy knows how to, like, you know, flip the two whenever he wants and be awesome, or just be a child. And I was like, I'm never gonna grow up. No one should ever have to grow up. We should all be children all the way through. Children that make magnificent things happen in the world. Alright guys, so that's what I wanted to let you know. You know, there are hot and ugly people out there. That should not affect most of your perception or judgment of anything of those people. The most important thing is that if, you know, generally people who are pretty, they get away with a lot of stuff. We all know this. It's just, and if you don't know this, it's generally like someone who's aesthetically pleasing and looking to the eyes gets away with so much more than somebody who looks ugly. You get prejudiced because it's like, oh, you look like a villain, right? And then the other one looks like, oh, you look like an angel or a goddess kind of thing, and then everyone's more forgiving towards that. I know it's unfair, but you know, that's just how it is. I haven't really gotten away with much. All I do is always just try to be nice and courteous. And that's and sometimes I still, like, I remember in high school, I forgot to validate my train ticket, and then like the police officer like fined me for like $120 or whatever, right? Because I was on the subway or the SkyTrain or whatever, and then just because I didn't validate the ticket, so he fined me. And then guess what? Like 2 cars down, he's like doing a check, right? He runs into a group of girls and is like, you know, blonde, silver hair, literally same age as me, in their teens or whatever. And you know, they're like a group of girls. They didn't even have a ticket on them, and he just let them off like no problem. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm like, this is either racism or like prejudice or like whatever or something, right? I at least had a ticket in my hand. I just forgot to validate it. Those girls had nothing in their fucking hands, like nothing. They were just like, oh, I'm sorry, officer. I was like that too. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, officer. I forgot to validate. I didn't know where the validation machines were, and I didn't. Like, I barely rode the SkyTrain because like Asian parenting, we were barely ever let out of the house beyond 5 p.m. at our age. I was like, you better be home by like 3:45 or like 4 o'clock or like within 4 o'clock. If you're like not home by 5 p.m., it's like, we'll assume you've been kidnapped or something, and then we're gonna go call the cops and look for you everywhere. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, so that was like my parenting. But anyways, yeah, I was so shocked, right? And I'm like, I didn't know at the time, and then as I grew older, I kind of resented cops in a sense for that, right? Or that particular cop. Anyways, I didn't paint them all bad, because there was one time I sped through like a stop sign at like 2 in the morning because I was on a rush home because my mom was really worried like where I was, and then the cop tailed me all the way home. I was like, oh shit. And then I was like, good evening, officer. I'm like, well, I was like, what happened? And he's like, did you know you went through a stop sign or whatever? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm really sorry, officer. It's like my mom just really wanted me home, and I didn't really see any cars, so I just kind of went. And he's like, you could have been hit by a drunk driver. He's like, you should be more careful next time. I'm like, I'm sorry, officer. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. And then he didn't give me a ticket. Oh, thank God. Like, and I was just like, you know, I'm like, there's some cops out there, like, you know, on judgment on the scenario. And it's 2 a.m. It was kind of, it is true, like there were some drunk drivers, but I didn't see any like headlights or whatever, and it was just like dark everywhere, right? And just the street lights on the stop sign. And I was like slowing down towards the stop sign. I just didn't stop, and I just kind of rolled over it at that hour. And I was like, just in a hurry to get home. And it was just like a few blocks from my house. And I was like, whoops. Anyways, guys, that's the story today. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye for now.